Hello, my name is Keith Haswell. I'm a professional astrologer with over 40 years experience in the business now, more than 30,000 clients worldwide. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this video, and on this video I'm going to talk about fear. Now, I spoke a couple of videos ago about love and the power of love, and the fact that love was all there is. Well, love is all there is in the universe, but that's in the conceptual world, in the world that's non-manifest. You remember I spoke in there about the underlying principle of love, which is the cause of everything, and that underlying principle of love is infinite in its intelligence, infinite in its love, infinite in its wisdom, infinite in its consciousness. But in order to know itself experientially, it had to create aspects of itself which were not magnificent and were not the totality. Because if love is all there is, and if that is the only thing that's there, then it can't be experienced. And that's a very important point. And so what had to happen is that in order for love to experience itself as magnificent, it had to create its polar opposite, which is fear. There's only two emotions in the world. There's only two emotions in the universe, love and fear. Fear is its polar opposite. All of the positive emotions are all derivatives of love, and all of the negative emotions are derivatives of fear. So it would appear that hate is the opposite of love, but no, it's not. Fear is the opposite of love. Hate is only an expression or an aspect of fear. So this is what I want to talk with you about here, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to communicate with you about such a beautiful subject and to clarify things which are so important to all of us, because all of us are subject to fear. And I'm going to run through, first of all, in an astrological way, as I always do, the nature of fear and the type of fears that you are going to be experiencing in life. So you just sit back and relax now and enjoy the journey here with me into a subject that no doubt you're very familiar with. Okay, now first of all, before I do start going into the nature of fear and the different type of fears that we have as a human family and as individual units in that family, I just want to state that because fear is archetypal, in other words, it's the polar opposite of love and had to be there in this space-time rule set for anything to be experienced, the two real emotions had to be here in this world for us to experience anything. If there was only love, we wouldn't be able to experience anything. So there had to be aspects of the underlying principle of love. And that was, first of all, Goddess, and she created God, and together they've created all that is. And we're following on the footsteps of God and Goddess. But God and Goddess have not got home. They're still growing and reaching and stretching themselves, which is an amazing truth to integrate into your consciousness. The fact that God and Goddess are not stagnant and not stationary and can't grow anymore. No, they are growing and reaching and stretching too, because infinite love is infinite. You can never ever experience it, remember. You can never ever experience anything that's infinite. So anyway, having said that, and having given a little bit of a push there for the Goddess who started the whole thing going as the first aspect of the underlying principle of love, let's now focus on fear. Fear is archetypal, and therefore it is non-local. It's everywhere at once. And so when you fear something, it operates and functions all over the world. If you fear about someone who's in another country, your fear is automatically there with them and can bring about disastrous results in their life. Now, we are all living in a spiritual classroom. We are all living in a space-time rule set which we are fulfilling our needs. We are all in the area of needs fulfillment. And we fulfill a variety of needs through the 12 houses of our horoscope. The first house is where we are fulfilling our needs for impact. And this is where the fears start, is a fear of not being able to have impact, a fear for our personal safety, and a fear that we are not going to be able to achieve our plans and give them structure and form and bring them down into manifestation as conditions and events in our life. So that's a genuine fear that belongs there in the first house of the horoscope. The next fear is the fear of insecurity, to do with the second house of finances, and this is where we are fulfilling our security needs. So we all have fears that we're not going to be able to pay the bills, that we're not going to be able to have security in our life, and this is not just physical security with money, but it's also emotional security, mental security, and spiritual security as well. So these are where we are fulfilling our security needs, and we all have fears around the idea of not being able to fulfill our security needs. The third area of our horoscope is the third house, where we are fulfilling our needs to communicate. We all need to communicate because we need to know somebody, and we can't do that without communicating and receiving communication back from them, and to have impact through that communication. And so the fears that are connected there is that we're not going to be able to communicate, that we're not going to be able to get our point across, that we're not going to be able to have impact through our communications, and that we'll be misunderstood. So that's a genuine fear, that will not be appreciated and so forth. The fourth segment of our horoscope is where we are fulfilling our needs to belong to the family unit, the domestic arena. And this is where we have fears of not belonging, fears of being rejected, fears of failure in the formation of a home and domestic environment. And so we go in for domination, manipulation and control to try and keep those in our home environment, in our sphere of influence. And that backfires on us. So we're all full of fears of not belonging to a family unit and not belonging to a domestic environment, and being lonely and lonely forever. The fifth segment of our horoscope is where we are fulfilling our needs for having fun and expressing our love. And we are all full of fears to do with this, that we're not going to be able to have fun, that we're not going to be able to have a happy and healthy social life, that we're not going to be able to have a happy and sexual expression, that we're not going to have romance and love in our life, someone that we can pour our love into. And that we're not going to have children who will love us and be respectful of us and so forth, and allow us to pour our love into them, that will be rejected somehow in love and relationships, that will be rejected by our children, that will be rejected here and rejected there in the social sphere and so forth. So this is a genuine fear that all of us have in our lives. The fear of rejection, the fear of failure, and the fear of being left on the shelf, what you might say. The sixth area is where we are fulfilling our needs for service through our job, and also fulfilling our needs to control our diet and to have exercise and stuff like that to be healthy. So we all have fears there of ill health. We have fears of being unemployed. We have fears of being rejected by our workmates and so forth, and not being able to be of service to the community in the way that we want to. So we're all riddled with fears there, and fear of the inevitable of ill health and being laid up in a bed for years and so on and so forth, and not being able to function in the world and be of service and having meaningful employment. The seventh house of our horoscope is where we are fulfilling our needs to have a mate. And this is for the main purpose of having someone that we can get to know and be intimate with, and who can get to know us, to know ourselves and to know another is a very powerful urge within ourselves. And so we all have fears here: fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of not being understood, fear of not having a mate, and so forth. And so we resort to domination, manipulation and control again, trying to keep that person in our life. But we forget that we can't control that person. We can only have them be themselves. And a very high percentage of relationships end up in divorce. So it's a tragic situation there with regard to these fears. The 8th house is where we are fulfilling our needs for change. And we have a fear that we're going to not be able to make those changes inside of ourselves, that we're not going to be able to overcome our addictive patterns of behaviour and our addictive habit patterns in the world. And so therefore this fear is very, very real, that we're not going to be able to control ourselves, and that we're not going to be able to rise above our negativity. And the fear of death. The 8th house is the house of death. And the fear of death, unbelievable fear that's there, the fear of death. And the fear of the end of everything that I've ever known, fear of the end of my consciousness and my life, is a fear that everybody faces. The 9th house is where we are fulfilling our needs to expand. And we do that through travel, research and investigation into the spiritual side of life and into philosophy and so forth, adult education, and through it becoming more of who we really are through experience in life. And all of the religions and the philosophies of the world fit into that area. And so we all have fears surrounding this, that we're not going to be able to expand, that we're not going to be able to have experience, that we're not going to be able to travel. And there's all sorts of fears there that we're never going to grow and reach and stretch and become more of who we really are. The 10th house is the house where we are fulfilling our needs for aspiration to higher self, and to become more of who we really are, to be well respected in the community, to achieve in business and career as distinct from the 6th house of the job. And so we all have these fears that we're going to be a failure, that we're going to not be able to succeed in our highest ambitions and our highest goals and dreams in life, that we're not going to have a positive impact in the world and be well thought of in the community, that we'll end up being ridiculed and rejected by humanity and our peers. The 11th house is where we are fulfilling our group needs, and we are fulfilling our needs to have friendship. And so this is where we are having club activities and group social activities and so forth, and experiencing friendship and intimacy and relationships with other people's children and so forth. And this is where we have heaps of fears. Fears of rejection, fears of failure, fears of not being understood, fears of not being liked and loved and cared for by our friends, fears of not being able to fit into the group, fears of being humiliated. And the 12th house is where we are fulfilling our needs for solitude and for introspection and reflection and aspiration towards the divine. And there are all sorts of fears that fit in here. Fears of hospitalisation, fears of loneliness, fears of failure in being able to reach and stretch towards the divine, fears of not being able to understand the plan and the scheme of things that God and Goddess have set up for us, fears of rejection. There's just so many fears that fit in there, and the main one is fears of loneliness and loneliness forever. Now that we've clarified the type of fears that we're all facing in life, and look, it's not unnatural to have these fears. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be perfect in life. Okay, so we've all made mistakes. We've all made mistakes in all of these 12 areas of our life. We've all made mistakes with our personal initiatives, our security interests and the handling of money, our communications and the domestic environment. We've tried to dominate and manipulate and control. We've all tried to control our lovers and a romantic life and dominate and control our children. We've all tried to control the job environment, and we've all tried to be healthy but failed at that job of doing exercise and eating the right food and so forth. And we've all failed in relationships and ended up having breakups in relationships because we tried to dominate and control and manipulate. We've all failed in the task of not being able to bring about changes within ourselves. We've all failed in our task of applying ourselves to the task of adult education, and we've failed in our financial requirements for travel and so forth. We've all failed in our high achievements and failed in terms of respect among the community. We've all failed in friendships and group activities, and we've all failed and done things that are secret and against our own best interests. Self-sabotaging activities, self-punishing activities. Look, we're all human. We're all human, and it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes, because this is all what we're in life for. And so what I want to talk with you now is how to overcome these fears, because we've all got these fears all the way through those 12 segments of our life. And the way to overcome the first house fears of not having impact in our world and not being able to plan and structure things and to bring them down into manifestation as conditions and events in our life is to realize that you are an intelligent being. You are a piece of God and Goddess. They have given you all the properties, all the qualities and all the powers of the whole inside of yourself now. Your task is to recognize that fact and unfold those powers. And unfolding those powers means to have experience in life and to take in knowledge. You'll never reach those heights through just experience, and you'll never do it just through knowledge. It's a combination of experience and knowledge, and out of it comes wisdom. So my intensives are designed to put you in the driver's seat, for you to be able to have the power that you are destined to have. You are a piece of God and Goddess, and you have all of those powers inside of yourself. There's so much goodness, truth and beauty within yourself. There's so much power, strength and talent that's in there waiting to unfold. So all of us have a divine future. And it's time to start living towards your future self and let go of the past. Hanging on to the past is not the way. We've all made mistakes, sure. Let go of that past. It'll take care of itself. Okay, throw your energies and your consciousness towards the future. The way to have security in life through the second area of your horoscope is to realize that you have been given the power to create abundance and prosperity in your life through the properties and the powers of meditation and processing and programming, and to change the habit patterns of thinking about your financial situation. If you're in a bad financial situation at the moment, take a lesson from the children in Syria who are thrown out of their home by the war. They're in some refugee camp, and yet they can still run around and kick a ball and have fun and laugh. It's not the circumstances in life that's important as far as your financial privation is concerned. It's your reaction. You might not have the capacity to have control over the financial situation that you find yourself in and the lack of security that you find yourself in, but you do have the capacity to control the impact that that has upon you. So it's time for you to realize that you are in a much better position than the people living in the streets in some city in India or some city in Bangladesh or something like that. So you do have control over your reaction to these circumstances in life. And you can find that sense of security in the worst of financial conditions, because you have still your mind, you still have your emotions, and you still have the love of God and Goddess who are there helping you. The way to alleviate your fears as far as the third house is concerned, where you have fears about not being able to communicate with people and so on and so forth, is to change the way that you communicate with people. When you understand through my intensives that you are a piece of God and Goddess, and you have all of these properties and all of these qualities and all of these powers inside of yourself now, and you start to unfold those powers, and you start to understand that you are loved by God and Goddess, and they are waiting to become your partner in life. And you've got other inner friends, you've got your future self, and you've got your higher self. Look, there's just so many inner friends there waiting to help you in life. And so your communications can be uplifting and not trying to dominate and control and manipulate people. You can let go of your anger. You can let go of your aggression. You can let go of your anxiety when you understand that you have eternal life, that you can never ever die. What is there to be anxious about? As far as the fourth house is concerned, you can have a home environment which is magnetically attractive, because you're not trying to dominate and control people, that you see everybody in your home environment as a soul, and that they are individual souls and a piece of the whole of God and Goddess, and that they have a destiny which is infinite and eternal. Now, there's no need to dominate and control and manipulate people in the home environment. You attract them into your home environment through the power of your love. Your love is magnetically attractive. As far as the fifth house of romance and love and having fun and your relationship with children and so forth, you can let go of those fears there, because you are perhaps trying to keep that person in your life to make you whole. You're saying to yourself, if I could only find my other half, if I could only find someone who can love me and someone who I can express my love into, then that will make me whole. And so you do everything to try and keep that person in your life, and you do everything including domination and control and manipulation and so forth, when all you need to do is not to have somebody to make you whole, but to have somebody that you can share your wholeness with. So when you understand about who you are really, and you understand about the goodness, truth and beauty of your being, and you understand that you are a piece of God with eternal life, that you can never ever die, you lose all that need to be able to control people to keep them in your life. You become magnetically attractive, and you enjoy expressing your love to them, and they will want to be around you. Your children will be guided by you. You don't need to dominate your children. Start to perceive your children as little souls of life, and that you are a nurturing parent, and that it's your task to raise them through the love, not through the domination, not through the control, not through the manipulation, not through the punishment, not through the hurt, not through the pain. They will respond more to your love than to your anger and your aggression. And when you start to understand who you really are, and you start to live as a soul, and you start to love yourself, you cannot love another unless you first love yourself. It only stands to reason that if you don't love yourself and somebody says to you that I love you, you say, well, hang on, subconsciously you say, I'm unlovable, so therefore you can't possibly love me. Now what do you want? You must want something. So when you are full of love for yourself, then you will be magnetically attractive in your social life as well. And then the sixth house of the job. It's a matter of your perception of life. Sure, you might be unemployed. Sure, you might have difficulties. You might have difficulties with your health. You might have difficulties in trying to maintain a ritual and a routine as far as exercise and controlling your diet is concerned. But let go of those failures. Let go of that past habit patterns of behaviour that you've become addicted to and enamoured with. It's time now to become more of the giant that you truly are. And when you start to learn to love yourself, you will eat the right food. You will exercise because it's the right thing to do, because your body is the temple of your soul. And getting stuck into my intensives and learning to love yourself will change your whole perceptions on who you are. And so when you go for job interviews, the people who are interviewing you will take a different perspective on you. And if you have ill health now, that's okay. It's okay to have ill health. It's okay to not be perfect. You realise that that is being created by you in order for you to change. Your habit patterns of diet, your habit patterns as far as exercise or non-exercise is concerned. As far as the seventh house is concerned, in your intimacy and closeness with a mate and a partner and a spouse, well, don't try to dominate that person. Realise that they are an eternal soul and get to know them. Express the qualities of love that I mentioned in the earlier video, a couple of videos ago, about the 7 things to do in order to create 7 states of being. Express those truths into your relationship and respect that person as an individual soul, and the whole mechanics and the whole energies of your relationship will change. And learn to love yourself and you will become magnetically attractive. You'll never hold somebody in your life through domination and control and manipulation. That's a fear-based action. And remember, don't try to have somebody in your life to make you whole. Have somebody in your life that you can share your wholeness with. And the 8th house, the house of death, you will have no fear of death when you start to understand the way that reincarnation works and the fact that you've lived hundreds of lives before, that you can never ever die, that you've been given the gift of eternal life. And use the 8th house for its purpose, to be introspective and reflective upon things that are going on within yourself, your habit patterns of behaviour that you've become addicted to and enamoured with. It's time to bring about that change within yourself and to realise that every single emotion that you have is recorded, not by God and Goddess. They're not interested in looking in on all of your naughty parts. They've given you a piece of themselves that can do all of that. So your higher self is sitting there. Oh my God, the higher self is saying to itself, there they go, following that same habit pattern of destruction. There they go, following those patterns of self-punishment and those patterns of fear. And they're not making changes. They're addicted to their drugs, they're addicted to their alcohol, they're addicted to their sex, they're addicted to their patterns of destructive behaviour. Oh well, they'll get another chance. And so your higher self is patient. But all of the pain that you're experiencing in life is designed not to punish you at all. God is not a punishing God. Goddess is not a punishing goddess. It's designed for you to realise, hey, there is a better way. I can make changes inside of myself, and that will become events and conditions in my life which are different than what I'm experiencing now. And as far as fear of death is concerned, my goodness, once you understand the way that reincarnation works and start to steep yourself in my teachings, you'll realise that, wow, I truly do have eternal life, and God and Goddess are there waiting to be my partner in life, and my higher self is there waiting for me to join up and to create a better reality for myself. And my future self is there, and so many other inner friends are there. And you can master that science of meditation and go into your safe place and become more of who you are through processing and programming and bringing about genuine change within yourself. And the 9th house, where you are fearful that you're not going to be able to expand and you're not going to be able to grow and reach and stretch and become more of who you really are through adult education and through travel and so forth. This is where you can really get stuck into my intensives and become more of the giant that you truly are. To really let the penny drop that it takes experience and knowledge to get wisdom and apply yourself to the task at hand. Life is an eternal series of growings and reachings and stretchings to become more of who we really are. We don't have to do it through pain. We don't have to do it through hurt. We don't have to do it through struggle and hardship. So apply yourself to my intensives and realise that there's just so much there to learn, that there are answers to the questions that you have, that it's not everybody out there has got no answers to the questions. So join into my intensives and become more of the giant that you truly are. And the 10th house, you've got fears there that you're not going to be able to rise to the heights of success in your chosen field, and that you're not going to be well thought of in the community. Well, you have the power inside of yourself to apply to business and career and to aspire to become more of the giant that you truly are through the control and the realize that there are aspects of yourself that are holding you back, that you don't get away with your emotions. Your negative emotions are all recorded inside of yourself, not by God and Goddess who are there saying naughty and I'm going to punish you. No. But by yourself, all of your emotions are recorded and they have impact. We think that our emotions, nobody knows about it, and nobody knows about our thoughts. But our thoughts and our feelings do have impact on the way that we're perceived in life and respected in the community, and they do have impact if we're deceitful in business and career and we try to trample over the top of other people to get to the top and so forth. What are we creating there for ourselves, for our future? Draw upon that deep well of power and strength and talent that there is there within yourself. There's so much there for you to unfold. You are beautiful. You have a lot of power inside of yourself that you don't yet realise is there. So my intensives will help you to understand that and to experience that and to become wise. And as far as your friendships are concerned and your fear of not belonging to the group and so on and so forth, okay, by changing your perceptions about yourself and learning to love yourself, you become magnetically attractive and you can understand that you are part of a group. You are part of the larger group which is the human family, and that you are a map maker. The very fact that you are watching this video means that you are on the crest of the wave of evolution. You are a map maker. And we don't make maps by getting out there on street corners and saying, listen, I've got something to shove down your throat here. We make the maps in the new age, in this age. We make the maps by bringing about changes within ourselves, by rising above our weaknesses and developing our strength and our powers and our talents. And by becoming more of who you really are, you resonate a wave of energy out there into the community that has impact upon people in China and people in India and people in Egypt and people in the UK and Germany and the US and Canada and Venezuela and so forth. And you have impact upon these people and they feel inspired and they don't know why they're feeling inspired, but it's your energy that has inspired them because you have become more of the giant that you truly are. So it's time now to realise that you are beautiful. And as far as the 12th house is concerned, the fear of loneliness and being lonely forever, yes, you can turn that into solitude. the love of solitude and the need for solitude and the wonder and the mystery of solitude. And through that solitude, and you will learn to love solitude when you learn the art of meditation and the science of meditation. You will learn to love solitude because it's down in that safe place that you can go really into yourself, and then you can link up with your higher self and your future self and other friends that are there in the inner side of life, Christ and so forth, Lord Maitreya. So there's just God and Goddess are waiting there in your safe place every day for you to come down there and become more of who you really are, so that they too can become your partner. So this is where you will learn to love solitude and to delve into the mystery and the wonder of solitude and aspire towards the divine, because you are growing and reaching and stretching to become more of your higher self. And as you become more of your higher self becomes more of God and Goddess. And as your higher self becomes more of God and Goddess, they become more of the underlying principle of love. Everybody's growing. Everybody's reaching and stretching. The only one that doesn't grow and reach and stretch is the underlying principle of love, which is infinite love. I mean, how about that? Infinite love. And so it could never ever experience itself unless it created aspects of itself to look back upon itself and to experience its magnificence through those different aspects. And the Goddess was the first aspect that was created, and she created God, and together they have created all that is, and we're following in their footsteps. So it's a wonderful journey in life. Look, get stuck into my intensives. Order your horoscope number 1 if you haven't already, because we'll be able to send you whole lots of goodies all free of charge. And horoscope number 2 can help you to understand the tests that you've set up for yourself, not tests that are imposed upon you by God and Goddess or a punishing God. No, tests that you've set up for yourself in order to become more of the giant that you truly are. You are on the crest of the wave of evolution, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. You are a map maker. It's time to recognize your power, your strength and your talent. It's time to unfold your goodness, truth and beauty. So I thank you for your attentiveness here and look forward to working further with you should you order your horoscope number 1 and subscribe to my videos, and let's have some fun together changing the world through our resonant cause and our resonant vibrational frequency, that we are becoming more of who we really are. Let go of the fear. Thank you.